Wow, this house is cute. But can I really get in the game in this economy? I do have savings, and I am responsible-ish. Ugh, I should bury it. I'm being wild. But what if I'm not being wild, though? Could I actually score a...
Kick off your home buying journey with Zillow's new BuyAbility tool. It makes it easy to find out what you can afford, so you can get off the bench and onto the playing field with confidence. Check your BuyAbility, only on Zillow.
Saturday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Saturday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Saturday. Saturday, bring it on.
Hello and welcome to The Shift, the podcast that aims to tell the no-holds-barred truth about being a woman post-40, created and hosted by me, writer and broadcaster Sam Baker. My guest today is a woman who knows better than most what it takes to adapt to life's big shifts. Dame Denise Lewis is one of the UK's best-known athletes. She won gold in the heptathlon in the Sydney Olympics in 2000, and bronze in Atlanta in 1996. She's won medals at the Commonwealth Games, the European Championships, and the World Championships. After retiring from athletics in her early 30s, she built a successful career as a BBC Sports commentator. Oh, and she had 4 kids.
It's just those ebbs and flows of life where you're going to experience real difficulties, but knowing that if you come back to centre, you can find a way back through it. And I think that has been, one of my best assets to try and get back on that central line, which keeps me feeling okay and good about myself.
In 2023, she was made a Dame for her services to sport. Now 52, she is president of UK Athletics and has written a book sharing everything she's learnt, aptly named Adaptability, a guide to surviving and thriving in a world of competing demands. I met up with Denise to talk about self-reliance, independence, and how growing up the only child of a single mum shaped her. The challenge of building a whole new identity in her 30s and again in her 50s, her secrets to adapting after a big life shift, and how she learnt the vital skill of mansplaining. Plus, we did menopause, aging, and why she loves being on the 5th floor of life. You probably know, it's a chat. I've got loads of questions, but we'll just go where we go, really.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It's not a grilling.
Not yet. That's to come in a few weeks' time, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, doubtless. You must be used to it.
I am. I think now that I'm sort of a bit longer in the tooth, more mature, more kind of like, you can't affect my real essence of my core, who I am. I just let these things just brush over me.
I was thinking that when I was reading your book, I was thinking, how did you cope with that? Because you can go, can't you, from adulation to, oh, she's shit.
Yeah.
In like
that.
No time at all.
It took me a while, as I said, to get used to, because you are you're in the moment. You're an athlete. You've got that heightened sense of just everything, and it matters so much to you. And so you want people to feel what you're feeling and to celebrate you, and that's nice. And it took me a little while to get used to that. Sometimes people just aren't feeling you, and they don't either like what you're saying, and I've had this in the broadcasting as well. I remember 2012 Olympics, it was a big deal for me to be, sort of co-hosting and being part of that punditry team. And I remember this one journalist saying that I was the worst pundit he's ever come across. And, it was it's like a dagger to the heart. And as I said, I just kind of like, what's that about? That's a bit rubbish. But, and you said, when you're competing and, having been an Olympic champion and then having some issues post those Olympics, the press just turning on me, I just thought, wow, there's a lesson here. There is a lesson here. You cannot be pulled and bent out of shape just because people have opinions about you. So it's probably safer. Your safe space is somewhere central. Knowing who you are, knowing what you're about. If those labels don't serve you, don't belong to you, just cast them aside. Inherently, I know I'm a good person. I try to think about others. I act in a way that I think is appropriate. And so someone just kind of slating you and trying to drag you down, it's never a good thing.
I think it was just a couple of days ago, which Demi Moore, I think it was the Critics' Choice Award, in her speech, she was saying about appreciate the good moments, but not be so carried away with them.
Yeah.
And the same with the bad. And that's it takes a while to get to that place, doesn't it?
It does. And I think you have to recognize how you felt when someone really did critique you to the point where it feels unjust. You delve in and appreciate the adulation, as you say, but yeah, it does take you a while to just try and find that even keel, that was nice. I move on. I come back to center. That was horrible. It wasn't nice, but I come back to center. So it's just those ebbs and flows of life where, you're going to experience real difficulties, but knowing that if you come back to center, you can find a way back through it. And I think that has been, one of my best assets to try and get back on that central line, which keeps me feeling okay and good about myself.
How old do you think you were when you found that centre?
It's happened much later in life. So I would say in my 30s, I started to get better and I started to see the fruits of that work, because it is work. Because, when you're sort of triggered and stomping around because you're so hacked off with something that someone else has said, everything, as I said, your whole day is just like, Jesus Christ. And you play that conversation and all the things you'd have liked to have said to that person if they were in the room. And
exactly. Yeah.
And it's just energy. It's just energy that isn't kind of serving you. So I think I would have been in my 30s, possibly when I've had my first child, because you've got more other things to worry about. So you just kind of brush the other things aside. And I think it's been continued work for me, just trying to accept that not everyone's going to like you. Don't worry about the 50% that don't all the time. Just keep going. And I've just got better and better. You don't just arrive to anything in life. It is a process. And the more you work on it, the better you will get. So I think that sort of conversations with myself happened within my 30s. I got better in my 40s. And now I'm on the 5th floor. I've got that acceptance of actually that process works for me. And I feel good about myself. And sod you and you and you. Yeah. I'm good. And it feels nice.
I really like that you're on the 5th floor. Because I love it on the 5th floor. The 5th floor is a great place to be.
Who knew? Who knew?
Nobody tells you, do they?
They don't tell you. But maybe there's something that there's this evolution. Maybe 30 years ago, the 5th floor didn't feel as good as it does now, because we are so much more informed about what 50 will feel like. The nuances, the changes in our bodies. We're talking more about mental wellness. And I think we're the generation that, whether it was Oprah, but whoever started this whole it's okay to talk process, we've kind of fed into that and we've been growing it and nurturing it. And I think the embodiment of this 5th floor feels good. And we are at times taking on all the learnings, whether it's menopause, whether it's nutrition, whether it's exercise and wellness in all its forms. And it's just coming together. And so we're the advocates of 50 is fabulous and it feels good if you embrace it and don't fear it. So change the F's for yourself. Yeah. Change the F's. It's not fuck 50. It's not woe and doom and gloom. It's 50 can be fabulous.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I definitely found, because I had my perimenopause in my 40s, I definitely found that was the tough time for me. And once I got certainly past my early 50s, I was just like, this is great. It's great here. Where are you at? Because you've got a little boy, haven't you, as well as like a 20-something daughter. Excellent planning, Denise.
Who knew that, an only child would end up having, 4 children? But planning. I went past my sort of curfew. My husband gave me a sort of a deadline. If you're gonna really do this and have another child, it has to be by X date. And I was like, oh, it's my prerogative to just kind of, we'll see. And actually, nature takes its course, doesn't it? There's no defined time it happens, and you're blessed, or it doesn't happen. So yeah, I had my child, my lovely boy. He's 6 years old, and I intentionally went about that pregnancy and how I wanted to that next sort of year to look for myself. With getting back into work, very clear what I needed in order for that journey to be a successful one, both as a mother and as a working woman. And so I set my goals really. Told everyone what it was about, what I needed to do, how they could help me. I had my date in mind when I wanted to go back to work, and that was only sort of 9 weeks after Troy was born. And I felt I needed to do that for me, to give me confidence that it can be done. But I needed to do other things first. I need get to know my baby really well, make him feel settled and secure. Me having that knowledge that I can pacify and make him feel well, and we can do this together. And a little bit of additional support. My husband was very good, very accepting of sort of the T's and C's, if you like. And we went about it in a way that really suited us. So I was very baby-centric and focused, and he did all the support in and around that. So fed me, allowed me just to rest and recover and get to know baby.
And presumably there was a really big contrast between your early pregnancies and this one, just in terms of who you are.
Yeah, because it's, I've been fortunate to have really, really good pregnancies. So I don't really feel dissimilar apart from carrying lovely baby. I felt well. I'm able to exercise. I'm not impacted, too much by food, so I had, I was fine. So, but as a woman, I felt much more in control and much more confident, I think is the word I'm looking for. Confident in that how I was going to approach it, in contrast to, my daughter, my very first child, that being like, you're reading everything, every publication out on pregnancy and what to do and the pitfalls and what to look out for. I read all of those things. But yeah, there was this security in just knowing that I've done it, I've been there before, but still being alive to the fact that things do go wrong. It's not a given that pregnancies are going to be smooth or the birth is going to be easy. But I had this relaxation and confidence that I would get through it.
But also, it kind of struck me reading the book that when you had your daughter, you were, athletes getting pregnant and going back. It wasn't a thing, was it? It was quite rare. Whereas now it seems like it's just part of as it should be, but that's part of the course. But, you sound like a person who's in control now versus then it didn't sound like you had any control at all in terms of your trying to make your motherhood and career work.
It was definitely a challenge at that time, because there didn't feel like there was a manual or anywhere for me to go to gain that information about how do I do this juggle. The world was a much different place. Performance was on one side. Motherhood felt that it was on the polar opposite side, and never the twain should meet. And if it does, let's just whisper about it. We don't amplify it. We don't talk about it. We just get
We
on
don't
with
want
it.
everyone to want some.
No, we don't want to spread that disease. And so it just felt very much that I just had to go about it and work it out for myself, figure out my own little plan, get some help, but still really being uncertain whether the outcomes were going to be favorable. I was very nervous looking back, but putting on a brave face, it felt like the risks were really high. I can't say it was an easy journey. When I look back, it took its toll, and I think I was just so desperate to prove everyone wrong that perhaps I didn't enjoy that motherhood journey as much as I could have. And I'm a bit, listen, I've gone past that now, but when I think back, I do get saddened slightly. I rejoice in the fact that the landscape is very different now, but it does take me back every now and again, not often, what I missed out on. And I kind of take a deep breath and go, at least we're here. And the athletes of today can really not fear, not worry so much. It's a celebration every time you know that there's a returning athlete that has had a baby break and is coming back to their job. What a celebration, and how amazing this woman is that she's her motherhood role and just coming back, because we know what that physically takes, especially in high performance. Of course, women do it every day, or some women choose to do that daily, going back to work, returning to work. But when it's your body that is the determining factor, that you're trying to compete with the very best athletes in the world, you need support, you need the guidance that your physical health is being taken care of. Therefore, your mental health is good and prepared to embark on that journey again.
Because mental health just wasn't even really a thing, was it? Back in the early 2000s, it wasn't.
No, it was no thing. It was like, you just be tough or do something else. Felt like that sort of landscape,
Because it is a job, isn't it? When you said that, I just thought, yeah, it's not, because it's sport.
It's not recreation.
No, yeah, it doesn't bloody look like recreation. That's for sure. It's like hard work. Yeah.
It's not, and I can appreciate that. When I watch the athletes train now, I think to myself, how the hell did you do that? Because it's relentless. You're breaking the body down to rebuild it. You're punishing the body to make it more resilient, and that is happening on a daily basis. You're constantly tired, but it's for an end goal, which is on the day that it matters, that I am literally strong enough to withstand the physical pressure, the mental pressure, in order to deliver my best performance. So you're prepared to go through all of that challenge, that physical challenge, and it's more than it's so much more than a job. And so you've got that within sport, but I think going back to your point that in the 2000s it was so different. I think for women, if you're in business or in the financial sector in the 2000s, again, it's like you're almost having to lean into your masculinity in order to survive in that space.
Yes.
I've seen women even now talk about, their early experiences that, they would wear the grey suits as well, the grey and the blue suits. So they just didn't bring that female energy into the workspace because they wanted to be taken seriously.
Yeah, I was talking to someone about this the other day, about the fact that, you didn't literally have to be a man, pretend to be a man, but you did have to keep the fact that you were a woman on the low down. You didn't go on talk about having endometriosis or terrible period pain or any of that, because it would have been immediately more trouble than she's worth. So you kind of had to just totally keep
it under wraps, keep your aspirations. If you wanted to start a family, again, you wouldn't be talking about that. Those things were literally, I wouldn't say taboo, but you're just thinking, okay, I'm here on my merits and I just want to prove myself. That's it. All the other stuff was almost background noise, right? To think about how we can walk into a WC restroom right now and you can see provisions for women.
Yes, exactly. Free tampons. What is incredible.
You appreciate what it took to be resilient through that phase in order to bring you to a new level that you should appreciate, and you should kind of celebrate that we're going in the right direction. And hopefully our 30s and 40 somethings are just reaping the benefits of that.
Have you talked to your daughter's 22, isn't she? Have you talked to her about what it was like for you then? I mean, what does she make of that?
Oh, she everything's like Aiden. She's like, she thinks that, oh, you had to endure that. So they don't compute.
No, why did you put up with it, Mum?
Yes, they are so, I won't say vociferous, but just very confident in what they will not tolerate. Like, she's very much like, as you said, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just say that this is how it should be, and, champion yourself,
Yes, yeah.
I find with my daughter is everything's a debate. She wants to get, let's talk, let's get on it. I'm an advocate for that and this and that. So in some ways, so much more confidence in what they think and feel. Whereas I guess sometimes I would say during my 20s, you're kind of wondering whether you're going on the right path, or should I feel that, or should I think that? They're just very adamant about, that's what I feel. This is my opinion.
This episode of The Shift is sponsored by Shopify. Is it just me, or does it seem like everyone is either starting a side hustle or becoming their own boss? And you know what they're hearing a lot? It's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your own business. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses, big and small, worldwide. Whether you're selling jeans or juice, books or blusher, Shopify simplifies selling online and in person. Covers all your sales channels, from a shop front-ready POS system to its all-in-one e-commerce platform. It even helps you sell across social media like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And it's full of industry-leading tools that give you complete control without having to learn new skills like design or coding. And thanks to award-winning help and with an extensive business course library, Shopify is ready to support your success every step of the way. What's lovely about Shopify is that no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify will be there to empower you with confidence and control to take your business to the next level. It's time to get serious about selling and get Shopify today. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/shift, all lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/shift to take your business to the next level today. That's shopify.co.uk/shift. I'm really interested in what it takes to move on when you leave, when something really big changes, when you undergo a big shift. And so for you, retiring at what were you, about 32, something like that?
Yeah, 34, which is still it's young in your lifespan, isn't it?
In life, yeah. But it's not that young for an athlete, is it?
No, but there is much more longevity for athletes these days, in various different sports, but not so much for an athlete. 34, even though Dame Kelly Holmes won her 2 golds at 34. We forget that. So, but in the grand scheme of things, it was a strange feeling, because that feeling of loss is real. Although we're not talking about a loss of an individual or a possession, if you like, it felt very intrinsic to my identity and who I was. That seismic shift, young girl in Wolverhampton to becoming Olympic champion. It was just all woven in that athletic journey, in that culmination of my identity, or the reshaping of my identity. That to lose it and for it to be finished, terminated, was painful. It was painful, and I didn't really have anywhere to go with those emotions. Again, it was part of that whole era where it was like, okay, we'll deal with it, move on. You know, there was no athletes services where you could tap into getting advice about what to do next, or any retraining, or taste us into other career pathways, which is what they do now. You know, athletes coming to the end of athletic life or performance life, they'll have their performance lifestyle coaches that can redirect their energies. Yeah, it's so different now, and it's great. You know, you shouldn't. You know, you've got years of service to a sport, to an organisation, to your governing body, to not feel like there is any scaffolding or support to advise you post that. So, you know, no careers advice.
So it's literally just like, bye, thanks.
Yeah, well done, thank you.
And so this thing, which has been your life almost, I mean, I'm slightly exaggerating, but since you're about, 9?
Yeah.
You started athletics training. And it's your identity in such a way, because it's everything. It's like, it's your lifestyle, it's your diet, it's your 4 a.m. to arguably more than any other job. And then it's just almost the former Denise Lewis.
You are.
Yeah.
You are almost the former Denise Lewis. And your purpose feels like that's it. Full stop. Closed book, closed chapter. I was living with the hurt and trying to rebuild, because I'm thinking, well, it can't be that bad, surely. You know, people have done it before, so they must, and they survived. So you will survive, Denise, but how? What will it look like? And you know, those questions they weren't very forthcoming. So it was almost like you were going through the motions of what you ought to do. And yes, I was, you know, married or getting married and having children, but it didn't fill me. It didn't fulfill. It didn't replace the gaps. It didn't replace the gaps, and so I was learning to become something else, someone else, mother, wife, whatever the career was going to be. I had no clue, so I just kind of tried to be involved with things that I cared about, until you get to a point where took probably a decade, where I felt centered again. And I think it had a lot to do with getting over the competitive, or the athletic competitive self. I moved into broadcasting, but still didn't claim that as me feeling really good about it. I was doing it, but I didn't feel like I owned it. And so it as I said, it did take a long while for me to then think, I'm actually good at this. I actually go in there and feel like, yeah, I'm on stage. This is my thing again. And I'm enjoying being part of the team. The team's important, but it's that intrinsic feeling where you go, you know what, I got this. I'm walking in and I'm feeling like the swag, you know, I feel good.
Yeah, like you're kind of, I don't know, like you're someone.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Because it's that thing, I was thinking about the fact that when I was reading your book, the fact that whenever we meet someone at a party, say, practically the first thing we say is, what do you do? Not who are you? Tell me about you. Tell me something about you. It's like, what do you do? And there must have been quite a long time where you didn't know how to answer that.
Yeah, it didn't feel good saying you're former anything, does it?
No, I used to be.
I used to be. Once was. You know, you're kind of losing something that's been lost to you, as opposed to you're moving in the direction of obtaining something and owning it. And yeah, so, you know, even though I have a little issue when people say former Olympic champion.
Yeah, no, you are an Olympic champion. Yeah.
You know, there's no former about it. That's what I did. You know, I was definitely a former athlete, but I still am an Olympic champion. You know, I made peace with a lot of things that, you know, were not quite right. And I think that's the most important thing that I want from the book, is that, you know, soon you make peace with a situation, do the work to find out why you feel uncomfortable. How are you talking to yourself about your experiences? And once you can actually get that in a place where you think, okay, that makes sense now. And when I say that, or when I feel and act that way, it's because of X. you can start taking control of that narrative for yourself and feel. And there's a section where I talk about my mom in there, where she for so long, the narrative of society as a little failure. We've got a little friend here. What's little
Yes,
friend's
it's like
name? It's like
sausage making his entrance.
sausage is like, I want to be part of this. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he's been throwing himself at the back of my chair for about the last 10 minutes, but he's decided that's not enough.
Yeah, it's like, see me.
Yes, I need to be in this.
I need to be in
But
this.
Sausage, we are more interested in Denise's mum than we are in you, frankly. He's gone now. He's done that.
Sausage is gone. So yeah, my mom was so caught up, I think, with the narrative or the lens that society had her under in her mind. But
She had such a tough time, though, didn't she?
It's a tough time because society was a bit tougher. It was tough back then. And it was particularly tough coming from a different country, settling in, becoming pregnant at a young age. Yes, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? It was almost felt like it was set up for failure. And she lived with that sort of under that cloak almost. And it's just taken her almost a lifetime to work it out and to lose the perception of shame, if you like. Oh, I made some mistakes, or that could have gone better, or I should have made different life choices here and there. But I'm okay. And I'm a success story because I've been really independent, and perhaps I could have asked for more help along the way to ease in the burden. And had I known that, maybe I'd have arrived at the point of feeling free sooner. But she's there now, and I see her, she's lighter, she's brighter, and she's accepting, and she can pat herself on the back and go, I did it. It was tough, but I did it. And I didn't quit.
I guess given what happened to her, when she got pregnant and her parents effectively wouldn't support her, wouldn't, threw her out, for want of a better way of putting it. That makes it then hard to ask for help, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If help has been refused you in such a dramatic way when you need it so much.
Yeah, it wasn't very forthcoming. And again, that's part of the generational trauma. My grandmother would have been like, we've come here to represent ourselves. And I'm working, I'm trying to move our family forward. And this has just put us backwards. And this is not how I see, this is not what I saw for you. You're a good girl. How did this happen? That sort of umbrella. How did you allow this to happen to you? So I think there was a lot of that. And I think my mom felt the brunt and definitely the burden of that. So she became much more fiercely independent and, as you said, not asking for help because it was rejected.
So you grew up, was it just you and your mum your whole childhood?
Oh, my whole childhood.
What was the impact of that for you?
I would say most children don't know much else than what they are born into. How would you?
Your childhood is a normal childhood, isn't it?
It's a normal childhood. In your lane, that is what it looks like until you start venturing out of the confines of your own home and, start talking to other children, or, you just see life starts to show you things, doesn't it? And I just realized, okay, well, I don't have a daddy, and this is difficult, or not everyone's home looks like this, and that's when you start to really see the world or your own little world in a different way. And having had 4 children, and especially really, my eyes were wide open watching Troy grow up. Any changes, they're so live to, they see it. And they're trying to process it for themselves. And so I imagine as little Denise was kind of thinking, okay, well, how does that affect me? Not having a father. Well, it doesn't affect possibly me, but I see my mom really working hard, and I spend a lot of time, trying to support her. So you just do that. I was a little wing woman. I help out. I used to help out. I used to try to make her life a bit easier. Probably not really with the knowledge and the maturity to really understand the challenges of life. But I really already instinctively, you feel that I need to support here from whatever innate abilities that we have as humans to empathize. You feel that, I think, very much as a child, that's the only logic you can apply, which is that empathy, which is what I did.
So did you feel kind of very much a team with her more than mum and child?
Yeah, we're almost like sisters. And I people used to see us, when I first joined my athletics club, my first coach was like, "Oh, you like sisters," because we were. Although I had the respect of her as a mother, I was part of a team in my head. I do my bit, she does a big bit, and I do a little bit. Yeah, it's very, very much like that.
And she had an incredible work ethic, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. And I think maybe in some ways you learn that, and it becomes that's the default. You go to work ethic. That's how you get on in life, because that's what you do. You work hard to achieve something. And my mom's always been that, spreading that message that you work hard, you do your best, you don't take that sort of help. You're not going to sit down and just wait for someone to do. You got to do for yourself.
I was interested, and I think I pulled it out. There's a point where you say in the book, I've improved my asking skills, which I absolutely loved, and I think a lot of women could get better at. But was that something, having grown up with your upbringing, was that something you really had to work at, kind of actually going, I need a bit of help to get this done?
Yes, and I'm still not there yet. Okay, I'm not saying I'm the finished product by any stretch of the imagination, but my mom was very private. My grandmother, very private woman. Yes, I was very close to my grandma, but she was very fiercely independent as well. She did work long hours, very long hours as a nurse. So I think when you've got women that are homemakers, they're holding family together, you have a certain energy about you, because you're doing two roles effectively in some instances. And so I realized, because I've always had people help me, once you commit to athletics, you're going to have a coach, and so that asking process has to get better. That communication piece has to get better, because if you're hurt or uncomfortable or not feeling well, you just got to say, hey, I can't do that last run so you've got to ask for help. And so I got better, and I was good at it as an athlete, but still I've learned to get better as sort of wife, mother. I need more support. I cannot do it all. And actually, I shouldn't have to do it all. I should not have to do it all. I definitely took on that responsibility, thinking that's how you run a home, because you've got to just keep going. You have got to constantly be strong and get the job done. And that doesn't always serve you, because you will meet yourself, and there will be a breaking point, and there will be a moment where you're just so burnt out and tired that you're sort of taking out your own personal frustrations, because you're tired, on everyone else around you, because they're not mind readers. They're not. So unless you share that, you're not going to get the help that you're looking for.
I was interviewing someone else, and she said basically no one else did it as well as her anyway, so she might as well do it. I thought, on the one hand, I get that, but on the other hand, you're never going to get out of this.
It's not in your best interest, as noble as you think it is, and as much as you think that you're saving time, you're really not. You're not, because it becomes heavy. It just becomes very, very heavy. And that's, I think, my experience. And, my book is really about trying to offer a lens and assistance to thinking differently, and a mindset journey that will keep you going. That longevity of womanhood that can be quite arduous at times. You just need to find ways in which you find balance for yourself. And so, from thinking we should have it all, we can have it all, I don't necessarily endorse that thinking anymore. And so that's an evolution.
So you turned yourself, you went from, being a world-class athlete to being, an exceptional sports presenter. And now you've left the BBC. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough decision. It was a tough decision. And one that I wish I didn't have to make, if I'm being totally honest with you. But I was presented with a set of circumstances that couldn't be bridged. And at that point, you have to make a decision for yourself with this, okay, and be accepting that this could be just a natural turning point. And sometimes you can keep fighting against, an energy that, again, is going to get nowhere. And so I made a conscious decision not to fight too much and just to embrace another chapter. It was absolutely a meeting point. Having completed the book at that stage, or very, very close to completing the book, are you going to practice what you preach? Are you actually going to practice what you preach in this? Sometimes you've got to know when to let go and move into something else, because it can be an act of refreshment, rejuvenation, and more learning for yourself. And that was, I guess, the crunch point for me. Just like, you're going to do it, you're going to let go, and you're going to move on from the high that you were at. We had a fantastic Olympics in Paris. It was superb. And I knew that it was going to be my last Olympics in that role and that capacity. And so I just thought, you know what? I'm going to bring the fireworks, the dancers, and everything, celebration to everything I'm doing. So, my knowledge, my opinions, the way I was going to deliver my presentation, my wardrobe, my look, my energy, it was going to be A1. And I could try to own that. And it's going to sound very conceited, but I thought, if I'm going, if I'm leaving, and my editor and a few people knew that it was going to be my last Olympics with them, I said I would like a proper send off, unlike the last time. Which, again, I was like, I think I deserve more than that from my contributions. I deserve more than a tiptoe out of the sport. And so those lessons were very much with me about the decisions I made this time around. And it was, I'm going to ask you to bring the fanfare, because I'm worth that. And so that's what I did. And it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great one to go out on as well, because it was such fantastic Olympics, wasn't it? There was nothing meh about it at all.
No, I mean, listen, I realised just how special and what a privileged position that we are in as broadcasters, because we are just a conduit, aren't we, to the theatre that is going on the track or in the pools or all the different venues. It is about the athletes, but how we can translate that and be part of that is very, very special.
I mean, you can kind of amplify it, or you can, I don't want to say make or break it, but you know what I mean. Was it weird for you going from having been on the receiving end of commentating, good and bad, to doing the commentating?
It wasn't easy. I had to sort of literally divorce my emotions and my protection. I felt, very protective over the athletes, in as much as, how am I going to sit there and critique when I know just how hard it is to arrive at any championships in tip-top shape, being completely ready and knowing that things happen, and I'm going to sit there in my little glass house and start, talking about athletes. I know, how, what they're going through. Yeah, it just took me a little while to find my feet and to own my space in that one. And equally, not getting much feedback. It's not like at the end of each show we get a debrief of, what went well, something that I've been very used to as an athlete. Every athlete, they come away from their performance and have somebody saying, okay, could have done better. That didn't go so well, or we work on that the next time. Or equally, if it's not immediately after, it's within the next week, you're getting some sort of debrief or how can we get better? And that's not the life. And so you have to learn to either self-edit, self-critique, go with that feeling, did I do a good job? Because no one wants to be that, oh, please give me feedback, please give me feedback. You've got to sort of digest that all for yourself and grow with the role, which is what I had to do. And I think the more the confidence and you understand what your role in that sort of quartet and how you deliver your story, what you want to say and how it contrasts to others, you kind of start crafting your own little groove. And that's great.
I mean, there's a section in the book about owning your space. You know, having watched, I mean, I'm an Olympics junkie, and so I've watched you a lot. And there are definitely times when you kind of have to almost take your space. And mentioning no names, you talk in the book about learning to mansplain. Tell me about that, because I think we could all benefit from that a bit.
I just think, you know, you can imagine time is tight when you're on air. Everyone has a sliver, and, you know, if you sit back and just kind of let, you know, things evolve and play out and wait for your time to speak, you could be waiting for the whole show. And so you've got to have that confidence to stand up and say, actually, I have an opinion and I'm going to make it at this point. Or, excuse me, I don't necessarily agree with that. And so there is a point of taking that lead. And I talk about it in presentation, from a presentation point of view. I'm working in corporates where, you know, you've got to stand into your own, as I said, your own sort of masculinity, or you are a man, but you're not in certain guises where you're going to be forthright and get in there. This is my opinion, and be strong about that, because men tend not to think about airing their opinions or, you know, making their presence felt.
Yeah, I mean, they just rock up, don't they? They just rock up and say what they think. And we have not been trained to do that, especially women of our generation. Yeah,
I think it's fair to say that, and that's not with any sexist lens on a dialogue. You know, it's I think a lived experience, as you said, from this generation, where you're kind of waiting for permission to just say, I'd like to maybe change that or think differently on that. And I think we're getting better. As I said, my daughter's generation definitely have owning that. They've got something to say, they're going straight in there.
Yeah, and they're an inspiration in that way, really.
They are, but it's evolution, isn't it? They've been encouraged at school. They've got the social media where they're seeing it happen more. So it's actually, they think that's the norm. It is normal to have an opinion and to use it and voice it.
This episode of The Shift is sponsored by our friends at Wild Nutrition, who are offering you 50% off for 3 months. As women, let's face it, we've got a lot on our plates. So good nutrition is key. And this is where quality food-grown supplements can really make a difference. Our bodies are wired to absorb nutrients from food. So I was surprised to find that 95% of the supplement market is synthetically derived. Wild Nutrition believes you deserve better. No synthetic fillers or binders, just food-grown ingredients that are as close to their original food form as possible, scientifically shown to be better absorbed by your body. Founded by one of the UK's leading nutritional therapists, Henrietta Norton, and with an all-women nutritional therapist team, they empower every woman with the nutrients and knowledge to thrive at every stage of her life. Alongside their food-grown women's health range, covering hormonal support, fertility, pregnancy, perimenopause, and postmenopause, they also carry favourites like magnesium and KSM 66 ashwagandha. Their nutritional consultations are free, and I found mine so helpful. It was a total game changer. If only I'd discovered them sooner. I've been taking their energy support, and I can already feel that old lethargy lifting. Wild Nutrition are so confident that you'll see a difference. They're offering the Shift listeners 50% off for 3 months when you visit wildnutrition.com/shift. That's wildnutrition.com/shift. And if you don't feel the benefits within 30 days, they'll give you your money back. T's and C's apply. I just absolutely loved your shoe analogy about being a compartmentalizer. And I think, massively generalizing. Again, I don't think on the whole, a lot of women are very good at compartmentalizing. And I thought the shoe analogy from the heptathlon was so good.
Yeah, so the shoe analogy is centered around controlling a particular behavior and a mindset. When I was competing, you're carrying the highs of one performance into the next performance. And sometimes you're not focused then on what you're doing because you're still living in the past half an hour you've been competing, and you're not able to then fully get in the moment, in the next moment. And so I had to find a way of unlocking and parking it and putting it away and moving on to stay present and refocusing on what I needed to do next. If you've ever had any sort of psychology or you can't sometimes visualize. It's not always easy to conjure up emotions and feelings in your head. And for me, I just needed something physical to say, okay, I've moved from hurdles to the high jump or from high jump to shot put, and I need to shut the door on any emotions, whether it's positive or negative, in order to stay in the moment and get the best out of myself in that present moment. And so that physical change from one shoe to another was an opportunity for me to I'm done here. I'm done with that emotion. I'm now in the embodiment of what I need to do at that moment. So whether it's to think about the skills that you need for shots, or the skills that you might need for high jump, as soon as I had that shoe on, I became that person. I became that shot putter. I became that high jumper. Because otherwise, all the emotions just bleed into one, and you end up carrying that over hype energy or under performing energy into the next. And it gets convoluted. You can't process properly, and nothing happens well.
Do you still use that now?
Yeah, I try to. I try to use it as much as I can. When you're driving along, you're thinking about all the things that you need to do, and you say, stop. What's the first thing I need to do? The first thing is I need to make that call and tell that whoever it is I'm talking to, I've only got 5 minutes, because I can't be on the phone when I get to this next destination, because I need clarity of thought for what I need to do next. And so it is literally, it happens. You can utilize it if you almost pre-condition yourself to stop and allowing those emotions to bleed into everything you're doing.
You spent the first 30 odd years of your life programmed for a certain sort of success. What does success look like for you now, at your early 50s, and you've just pulled the plug on your last success?
I feel success for me is striking balance. And I know it's the most cliche thing you can say. It's when I feel like I'm honoring myself and feeling more control. So success is balance for me, and achieving the things that I want. So replenishing myself, nourishing myself, making myself feel well. That's success, because I know if I get that part of it right, I can then take on and deal with the other areas in my life equally well.
Has that changed a lot, feeling allowed to put that at the centre of what success feels like for you now?
I used to do it as a performer, and that's the easy bit. And this is the bit that I think people don't realise, is that you as an elite athlete, you're able to do it really well because nothing else matters as much. And so you take that skill, going into what I call normal working life, because that's what I do. I mean, normal working life, you do forget it. You tend to I did. I forgot it. I forgot that, what's integral to your success is making sure that you feel well and you're doing what you need to do to make that happen. And the more layers I added, children, husband, trying to be still outwardly facing Denise Lewis, the public figure, the Denise Lewis that needed to feel well was getting left behind. And I've had to readdress that. And I feel stronger than ever because I'm mentally refreshed and I'm physically accepting of what my body can do. And it doesn't need to be Olympic champion status, but it has to serve me to get me through the next however long I've got. I'm going to look after it. But in order to do that, I have to have a good mind as well. The mind has to be free enough and able enough and willing enough to steer me. And so I'm sort of back to where I started as an athlete, was putting me at the center. And then those ripples happen naturally and well.
I'm going to ask you questions that I always ask at the end. What is your emotional age?
Some would say it's 20. Oh, that's a really good question, because you're implying that the whole the wellness piece in there. I still feel quite childlike in some respects. I wouldn't want to say 20s because that was not, that's a hideous time of life, isn't it? Really,
yeah, horrible. Yeah.
Horrible. I would say I'm somewhere in my happy place. I don't know. 50, I'm happy now. It's really fun. I'm emotionally well now because I have the balance. So I'm feeling good at 50. My 52 years of life is the best ever.
Brilliant. Give us a book recommendation other than your own.
Ava Rodsky. So it's called Fair Play, and that would be my book recommendation because I found that extremely enlightening. It's not often you read something that you feel like someone's actually written it for you. And that was that division of labour and the invisible jobs that we take on as women, and not realising how much that impacts your brain space and your capacity. It was almost like, thank you for everything that I've been feeling and that borderline resentment, because I feel like I'm having to take on absolutely every thought process. It was just like, wow, you're not alone, Denise. You are not alone. You're not, your life is not probably dissimilar to many, many women out there. And we're suffering in silence. And that exercise I did, one of the exercises in that book is to physically write down all the things that you do, all the invisible jobs that you do. And I could have filled a page of A4. So that's clear. It's nothing to do with my work. It is those invisible jobs that you do.
What advice would you give younger women?
My advice for younger women, I'd like to say to be prepared for the journey, that it's be prepared for the journey. Start your wellness journey sooner rather than later. By wellness, I mean how you think about yourself, physical as well, but definitely that mental journey of, keep nourishing yourself, because the more robust you can make yourself, the better you can just sort of fly over those hurdles in life without the spiraling, the downward spirals. Because if you can minimize those, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
Who's an older woman who's inspired you?
Got so many. And then I talk about some books. Baroness Sue Campbell. She was chair at Youth Sports Trust. She was chair at the FA, Women's FA, Football Association. Real inspirational figure. Everyone around her is always ever elevated because she thinks outside the box a little bit, and she lets you know that you can do it and we can move forward. So I have a lot of time, energy, respect for her.
What's your superpower?
My superpower is my mindset. I can trust, and my gut, I would say. My gut. I trust my gut. My gut hasn't let me down. I can rely on it when change is occurring. I listen. I find stillness, and that serves me and has served me well.
And last one, how many fucks do you give?
Not many.
Fair
Not
enough.
many. I don't give too many fucks, but I care about people. But I try to make sure I'm getting to a stage where I don't give too many. Just if you're happy, you can spread that happiness to people. It can change someone's life, change their day. So I try to. That's not someone who doesn't give a fuck, is it? I do care. Maybe I care more than I think I do. I like to spread joy. So no, I'm gonna have to take that back. I care about I care about people. I think we're all interlinked, and I think I like to spread positivity.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy The Shift and would like to show your appreciation, why not buy me a coffee? Go to www.buymeacoffee.com/The Shift with Sam Baker. You can hear a new episode of The Shift every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, please do rate, review, follow, tell your friends, because it really does help other people find us. And if you'd like to know more about my own experience of shifting, my book, The Shift, How I Lost and Found Myself After 40, and you can too, is out now in paperback.
Unexplored catacombs buried beneath the city. A crumbling castle perched on a mountain peak. A top-secret government bunker. A cursed mansion cloaked in legend. I'm Sasha Auerbach. Join me and Tom Ward every Wednesday and Sunday as we reveal the mysteries and histories of abandoned places around the world and ask, where did everyone go? Brought to you by Like a Shot, makers of Forbidden History. Search for Where Did Everyone Go on your favorite podcast platform.